education, they come for higher education to the district headquarters and they stay with relations. And this girl's sister came to me and she said the girl had stopped eating, drinking, or she was almost like a skeleton. And she said, I saw her phone one day and I saw she was being blackmailed because a guy whom she did not know across the road, he just took her data, morphed her photographs, and a small rural girl, I mean, she got so scared when he morphed her photographs, he started blackmailing her with money, and then he had forced sex, and then he wanted, to have other partners to have sex, and that was like absolutely killing her. So, as males, also, you have a responsibility to stand up against violence. Don't say कि वो पिया हुआ था इसलिए उसने मारा. Don't justify that act. The moment you justify the act, you're condoning it. And when you're condoning it, you're encouraging the perpetrator of the act. I just 2 days ago gave that instance of, there was a group of boys standing and one guy, typical जैसे गली की बातें होती हैं. He said कि one of the guys in the group told another one that उस लड़की को जाके छेड़ो. And he was hesitant because he was well brought up and didn't want to indulge in any violence against women. And then his friends started laughing and, kind of mocking him. And then they said, तूने माँ का दूध पिया है तो जाके छेड़. He said, मैंने माँ का दूध पिया है, इसीलिए नहीं छेड़ूंगा. How many people have that kind of, courage to say that? And I hope I'm not overextended my time on this because you wanted to know about my journey. But I think my journey is nothing spectacular. It's just like it's a little different in the sense that I've always been a bit of a rebel and very good in studies, but not interested in studies. So in school, I took art and I took maths because these were the two subjects you didn't have to study. Nowadays, you do so many question papers and all. In those days, if you understood the concept, it was sufficient. And then after that, for college, I went to art because, maths also got dropped. But somewhere along the line, I felt I was mentally stagnating. And Bombay was a great experience because Bombay, you see, in Delhi is relatively, I would say, more equitable, more visually beautiful. Bombay, you see the stark reality. You see poverty. You see that huge Antilla how that bungalow of a rich man, and just below that you see a nude child, starved, lying and messing and doing, all the kind of living there literally. So everything is happening on the road at the same time. Everything is really very wow. So it was quite an eye opener because I went from a comparatively sheltered environment to a city when I was just 16 or maybe not even 16 and living on your own. And at that time also we were very socially conscious from but after I came back Delhi and had started an advertising agency. But because whatever I did with passion. I think that's the only message I can tell you. Just don't waffle through life. Only corpses float on the river. Whatever you do it with great passion. So I just loved my field of art, creating new things. And I was one of the first women, or maybe the only at that time, who had started my advertising agency. And it was a very exciting time to be in because there were new trends were emerging, people were changing, new kinds of advertisements were coming. But somewhere along the line, I was disturbed by the inequities of society. And I thought that now I need to do something else. So someone said कि आप बहुत बोलती हैं तो आप law कर दीजिए. So just by default, and I said I don't think I can, but I just took the exam and in the Delhi University the law exam, and then the rest is history. And for a person who didn't want to go for conventional college, I did BA, MA both through correspondence. For a girl who didn't want to study, I studied a lot. So don't allow yourself to be pigeonholed into a specific, slot that you are like this or you're like that. Whatever you do it with passion. And I'm assuming that you're all going to be lawyers. So don't again pigeonhole yourself in a specific practice. Try and join a corporate, see how you like it, do 6 months criminal, do 6 months civil, because it's a very exciting, there are many exciting things. There's blogging, there's even legal reporting. There's so many law sites which need legal reporters, so the court is full of advocates who are legal reporters also. So it's a very exciting time to be in, and I think the sky is the limit. If you have an LLB, you can do a lot. And most important is another thing, that when I said passion, yes, but don't blindly go into anything. You need hours of planning. And anxiety, I mean, it's natural. Maybe if you're before a judge, or when you first time you go to court, you may get a little tongue tied. You may fumble. But courts are very sensitive to youngsters. So I think you need to just keep on. Bolte raho. Just be at it. Like they say, Munna bhai lage raho. Just be at it and never battle with the specter of failure. I've seen so much, articulation, it's a good thing that mental health is being talked about, but then you know how it happens at and there's so much articulation about it. Don't ever think that you failed. Just change your track and re-strategize. It's your life. You have to plan it. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. And embrace your vulnerability. Don't think मैं सब कुछ कर सकती हूँ, तुम नहीं कर सकती हो. It is not possible, and you have some weaknesses. Take help. If it's a mental issue problem, take help. Take help from your friends. Take help from your teachers. Teachers are amazingly sensitive. I think teachers are amazingly sensitive. Of course, they're burdened with a lot of work and curriculum and teaching, but the kind of experience they have in dealing with the youngsters, I really think you should take help. Whether it's your teacher, they may, or when you're even when you're in a career, when you're an advocate, maybe you're good in drafting, but you're not good in arguing. So draft it and just get somebody to assist you, or to or and if you're good in arguing and not good in drafting, take someone's assistance. You have a big batch. Network with each other. Networking is very important to get ahead in life. Sorry, I've answered your
Sure.
question in a very, I've taken a lot of time to answer it.
No, ma'am, it's perfectly fine. Thank you so much for your encouraging words. We surely would gain something transforming that will add value in our lives ahead. Before our respected speaker addresses everyone, I would like to introduce her in length. Dr. Charu Walikhana, ma'am, is a leading women's right lawyer in Supreme Court, member core group for Women National Human Rights Commission, and a former member of National Commission for Women. She has a doctorate in law, LLM, MA in sociology, PG diploma in intellectual property rights from Indian Law Institute, and on human rights and international humanitarian and refugee laws from the Indian Society of International Law. A senior panel counsel for the Union of India in Supreme Court, Dr. Walikhana has been working in this field of women's rights for over a decade and is the only advocate to have been honored by the Supreme Court Bar Association for her writings 12 times. She is also an eminent jurist serving on numbers of panels for Supreme Court justices. She is also the founder of Social Action Forum for Manav Adhikar, status with the ICSOC of United Nations, which works towards advancing the cause for vulnerable and marginalized sections of the society, especially women. We are honored to have such a great personality with us today. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now, volunteers.
A couple of observations and questions asked by students in the chat box.
Okay, I don't know. Can you ask that? Because,
Yeah,
I'll have to go in the chat.
on changing the age of consent in POSCO?
Well, definitely, I mean, this is a very, I would say, a very, very live and burning issue because under 18, to make, before there were different ages like 16, 18, 21, 14. But to make a common age for who is a child, it was 18. So anything under 18 is, even if there's been a consent, it's assumed that it's a sexual abuse. So one has to, first understand that what is the spirit of the POXO Act. The POXO Act is to prevent sexual offenses against children. Though they've graded the offenses very well, penetrative, non-penetrative, etc., unlike the rape, which I'll come to later, uh, he- we need to understand that in this age, youngsters are experimenting, especially at the age of adolescence. So to criminalize that is absolutely wrong. And there have been some amendments in the MTB, that is the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. You see, because if the moment a child, a minor under 18, gets pregnant, she cannot go for a termination of her pregnancy. Because first, if she goes, because in the POXO Act, anyone who comes to know of the sexual act is duty bound to report it to the police. Otherwise, you also become an accomplice. So, as a result of which, the doctors have to report it to the police, and it becomes a police case, and then only can they go for any other intervention. So that has been changed. There's been an amendment, MTP Act, that it is not necessary that it results in a police case. But with children as young as 14 and 15, experimenting. And let's not close our eyes. Let's not say कि भारतीय समाज में ये नहीं हो रहा, वो नहीं हो रहा, because सब कुछ हो रहा है. I'll be very frank with you. I'm working with, I'll come to my, the rape survivor issues later when someone asks a question. But we're working even in the slums of Delhi. And girls as young as 14 have had 3 abortions. Not 1, not 2, not but three abortions. And the third time the parent says, ki chalo ab shadi kar do. That kind, to a third, fourth person. And you can imagine who they're going to. The scary fact is that the maximum number of maternal deaths are taking place in India. Why? Because they're going to quacks. They don't want a police case. They don't want the issue to get highlighted. And most of these cases are just, so we need to, of course, POXO needs a total relook, I think, on this issue, because they should see the age gap also. Like a person of between, like in other countries, they even see the age gap between the aggressor, the perpetrator, and the victim. If it's 14 and 16, if it's 14 and 25, a 25-year-old man has no business to have sex with a 14-year-old girl. Let's face facts. But if it's amongst the age gap, 2-3 years gap, that needs to be, seen in a more sympathetic way. So definitely, there needs a real look on it. But you know how it is that society moves faster than laws, and laws take we still have the 1800s Indian Penal Code. I mean, with India's development and the kind of intellectual powerhouse that it is, do you think that we don't have the capacity to make a penal code which addresses the needs of our country? And we have to follow 1860 when the world has changed so much. But that's the way it is.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, now we move on to another question that I am willing to ask, which is
Yeah.
from one of your publications, that is Sita Returns Modern India Through Her Eyes. So, this title seems very intriguing, and I would like to ask that how a modern woman can deal with the various challenges in the journey of empowering herself. Is
Yeah,
the
that's
modern woman is the women really safe?
so, that's what the book is about, Sita Returns. And it's quite interesting because I was thinking, first I kind of had a comparison because between the Ramayana and this. But then the publishers told me that what's so new? Everyone knows different versions of Ramayana, whether it's Goswami Tulsidas or Valmiki, and there are so many others. But the Sita Returns is So, you see, no one's going to stand up for you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a problem that everyone talk. It's a we are a women's safety is a collective responsibility. It's society's burden. But what do they tell you? You know, finally, even Delhi police says do self-defense classes, implying hum nahi bacha sakte. So it's very inspiring, and the whole thing, because even I have divided it in childhood, adolescence, because as a child, she lifted. See, in those days, the Varmala jisko dal di, the girl had the right to choose a husband. She just had to garland him.
Yeah.
In, but Sita could not do that because she was bound by her father's, promise that only a man who can lift the bow, Shiv's bow, can marry her. Because when she was a child and, she kind of lifted that the ball went under the cupboard or something like that. So she was strong as a child. So that's what I'm trying to say, that, she was everything. Would you like me to read out just maybe 10 seconds from the book? Very
Sure,
nice.
ma'am. Sure, ma'am. It would be a pleasure.
I'll just read out.
Yeah,
I
ma'am.
want to say that she is unique. Each individual is unique. Each woman is unique. I'm also using the word individual because, I'd say even men are unique in their own way. But, one gender, one sex is lower than the other. Always Sita's seen as a suffering type, but I've tried to show her something different. Fiercely independent, Sita dared to challenge social norms and break loose from the shackles of patriarchy. While making her own choices with courage and dignity, she did not allow her life situation to choose for her, nor did she let the abuse dishearten her. Remember, that's what I'm trying to give the message, that whatever happens in life, you have to make choices. Don't let it dishearten you. She was unique, self confident, self disciplined, selfless. She chose to uphold her self respect, therefore, exemplifying the power of womankind. Sita's offer for Agni Pariksha was not an act of annihilation. After the battle, when she met Ram, then again, and then when they had to enter Ayodhya, that was the third time. On the contrary, she emerged from the fire unscathed, was proof of her defiance that the gods had foolishness. I don't know if you've read that portion of the Ramayana, because when the fire gets scorched, when she jumps into the
Yes,
fire
ma'am.
is scorched. The fire starts shouting. I mean, that's how it's described in the Ramayana, the original Ramayana. And her flowers and all this, she comes out, totally unscathed, and even her flowers are fresh, chameli ke phool. How, in the book, in the Ramayana, all kinds of what you call threats to women's security are there. When a pregnant Sita was abandoned deceitfully in the cruelest manner, placing her and her unborn life's child in jeopardy. She was not told that I'm going to abandon you in Valmiki's ashram, but Ram told Lakshman ki isko le jao because she likes ashram life. And he was feeling he always listened to, obeyed his brother, and he could not defy him. But the trauma, the emotion is very beautifully depicted because he knew he was doing an act of deceit. So she has demonstrated to the world that it was possible for an abandoned single mother to not only survive, but successfully raise two outstanding and fearless sons. Just 3 lines more. Sita loved her husband wholeheartedly and sacrificed her life of luxury to be exiled in the forest with him. I mean, if you go to the case, 498A cases and these DV cases, I mean, all the women here, they want good life and they want the husbands. I mean, that's a trend nowadays. They just want the husbands to give them maintenance so they can lead a good life. Okay. But when her honor was repeatedly doubted by her beloved, for what he considered his kingly duty. She chose with supreme dignity to reject her husband and return to Mother Earth. Rightfully, people perceive Sita's steadfastness as a sign of emotional strength. She refused to forsake her dharma in upholding the truth, even though Ram forsook his dharma as a responsible husband. So be sure, like I just want to repeat what I told you before. Embrace your vulnerability, stand up for yourself, re strategize, and take help if required. I mean, just though this is a little bit off the topic, but since somebody did ask me about POXO, uh, if from my perspective, I think Ramayana, of course, is a great epic, but to show the injustice to the woman, what did Valmiki do? He, taught the children love and kush, and they went and recited it, all the verses. They learnt it by heart. So, as a result of which, Ram was able to realize the injustices, meted out to Sita. So, if you see how important it is, or how I would say it's a foresight, because in today's world, when the children grow up, if you see in a house where abuse is taking place, domestic violence, well, in a patriarchal society, when children grow up, they stand up for their parents, for their mother. Am I right or not? We've seen it so many
Definitely.
times. The woman is suddenly empowered as a young girl married into maybe a joint family or a nuclear family and with children. She's always, marginalized. But the moment her children grow up, she has the power. They're going to stand with me.
Certainly, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for beautifully describing about your book. And we could actually visualize when you were speaking. So now I would like to take up next question, which is written in the chat box, which is from Ajit Kumar Pandey. He's asking how far is it feasible to add self defense course for students, especially for girls in academic curriculum in schools, colleges, and universities, besides conventional studies?
I think it's being done. It's not like it's not an impossibility. It's being done, like when you were self-defense classes. But what also I think more important than that is sensitizing males on gender issues. We've done nothing. Every time there's an incident, every politician on earth says कि मानसिकता बदलनी चाहिए. And I have been saying it for I'm very scared because I think things are really deteriorating. And I say that, is it a laddu? कि आपने लड्डू खा लिया और आप बदल गए? It's not. Any change, any mindset change is intergenerational. Yes, self-defense classes are good. I mean, they're a kind of a part, they're an additional benefit. But why should these incidences happen? Why? I'm very scared for the future of of the girls of this country, because things are deteriorating. And we have to accept that there's so much provocation in the atmosphere. Even if you're watching a simple TV show, they have the ads, there's so much sexual provocation. At the same time, there's no open talk about sex. There's no awareness. There's nothing, no talk about birth control. How are things going to improve? I mean, finally, it's leading to violence. If you'll, there was a report I was seeing, and in Google, the sites that pornography sites that are Googled, I mean, from which country were the requests coming? From India. India is a country which people maximum number of people Google pornography sites. And let's accept it. Everybody's got a phone. Look at the kind of I came out
Content.
with this series in
Yeah.
COVID on YouTube about children and sexuality and the law and POXO. Somebody's asked me about POXO and also JJ Act. Just you can look up parenting tips for children, because everyone, you see, initially people were hesitant to give mobile phones to their children, which is right. You don't want children. But because of this online teaching, every child had a phone. And what was it resulting in? And I want to just, kind of clarify, there's a difference between erotica and porn. Erotica is maybe a romantic act or act of sex shown in a beautiful way. What is hardcore porn? Hardcore porn is where violence is associated with sex. And unfortunately, this generation, of course, maybe you're from Delhi and maybe better educated and more aware of access to better information. But in the rural areas, most people are youngsters are associating sex only with violence due to this kind of watching all this porn. And why are these instances happening that this girl made friendship with this boy and then he took her photograph and then he had sex, forcible sex, and his friends also had sex, and then they made the whole thing viral because they are associating sex with violence. It was, and we're not doing anything because, especially in the rural areas, there are two levels. You have plus two. I mean, it's very good. You people have reached this stage. You're lucky. You're privileged, and please don't leave this level. That don't fall low. Keep rising, because in the rural areas there are two standards. After the plus two, you say there it is chauthi fail and eighth fail. And what is the boy going to do after that? If you know this, the Nirbhaya juvenile, one of the newspapers went to his village and interviewed his family. Father was, I don't know, remember, mother was bedridden or something. Younger brother was, they had some two, three children, and the brother says, should they ask the little boy, what are you going to do? He said, मैं भाग जाऊंगा घर. So he's going to run away. Most probably he'll get a job in one of the cities as a cleaner of a bus or something. And the kind of nonsense those people talk and indulge in, and he'll become a part of this violent criminal system. So it's very unfortunate that we're not giving what's more than self-defense. Important is to sex education and sexuality. It has to be started at a very, very early age.
Definitely, ma'am. I guess he got his answer. Now we are moving on to the next question. One person is asking, Balindu Anand, he's saying that how effectively can we make laws accessible to the most vulnerable population, mostly women, from scheduled tribe and scheduled caste, because they are not well equipped. So how can they made be aware of this thing?
See, I think asked a very relevant question, but I don't want to give him a goody goody kind of answer. The goody goody answer is that they have these, every district legal services authority has got an outreach program, and they'll give you the number of volunteers who are going and they are spreading the message and creating a legal awareness. But the fact is, if you're talking about SC/ST, see what is happening. These things we're talking, let's say, in the uh, rural areas where caste, the whole system of life is about caste. It's really unfortunate. They cannot even speak out. So, what is the point? It takes, they have, before they had this dacoit system. अब नहीं है thankfully Bihar में these in Gwalior around that pinned area. And Pulan Devi, someone asked her this question that some foreign channel was interviewing her and they asked her this question that would you like to be a male or a female, or if you're born again. And her answer was that मुझे गरीब मत बनाना, नीची जाति का गरीब मत बनाना. That was her answer. She said, I don't care what I'm born as. Just don't make me, a Dalit, a poor Dalit. So, it's very, I don't know how we're going to break it, because I feel the villages are the hotbed of caste violence. And this romanticism ki gaon bahut achhe hote, they don't. The entire topography of a village is that when the PM Yojana road comes to the entrance of the village. At the entrance of the village are the upper caste, and there is the panchayat and the temple. You go further where the road kind of meanders and starts the other caste, and where the road does not exist is the lower caste. I mean, that's how our villages are built. So whoever romanticizes about them, I just don't know what is their reality. They must be upper caste.
Yes,
So to
ma'am.
change that is you have to educate people, get them out of that plum, break the village system. In a in an urban environment, people don't ask who's living next door. Bring them in an urban, create that kind of environment where there's a mixed society, where there's an inclusive society.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for your profound knowledge about this topic. We may take up with another question, which is asked by Jameel. His question is that gender bias continues to create huge barriers for many women in many fields. How to overcome, as well as what are your views on that?
See, you just have to gender bias. It's right because that's what statistics are showing. But if you see in India, most of the examinations are through, most of the entrance to public employment is through examinations, and which is open. So the bias cannot exist there. Then there are a lot of state services give preference to women. So there's a lot of positivity going on from the part of the state. And if you look at the MNCs, MNCs, the multinational corporations all have the Western culture and they have the best systems there. I mean, they're talking about paternity leave, they're giving all kind. They're talking about equity. When we say equity, equity and equality is different. I'll just try to explain. In Professor Anju spoke about reproductive rights and the woman reproducing. So if a woman, by virtue of her gender, she reproduces and she has to go on leave to for the act of delivery and to look after the child post delivery. Also her body is not in a condition to be working, so that's not her fault. If that portion uterus had been removed and put in a man, he would have had to do the same thing. So everybody is given a job on an equal status. But when we're saying equity, equity means missing out on what? By virtue of her being a woman. So the gender bias is there in people's mind. And we need to really, like I said, change mindsets will come only through education. And especially in the private sector and in the rural sector, this bias is very enhanced. I like simple thing like labor. In the agricultural sector, when I was working in the rural areas, and literally, we had the upper caste and the power holders of the village coming and running after us and like threatening us because we were talking about equal wages. We had this project running about women's empowerment and we're talking about equal wages. And it was not just a talk. We told the women, take this. Because in most of the, when we talk about, rural areas and they talk about agriculture, they're not landowners. The women or the men, they're not landowners. So if you're a lower caste, you get less money. If you're a woman, you get even less. And if you're a widow, you get even less. So where is the concept of minimum wages? And the power holders started getting aggressive with us, and then I kind of we had to kind of back off. And this many years ago, but the point we made a point, and it made a dent. So I'm sure women must stand up together, and even men are important parts in violence against women. We need men. I mean, we are not. It's not a male versus female issue. If your husband wanted you to study and come here, he encouraged you. He was a man. Your husband is sharing the household chores when you're working late. He's a man, so we need each other's support. That's what I said. Network and support each other. I hope that answers the
Definitely.
question.
Yes, ma'am. They should be complementary to each other
Absolutely,
and not should work
absolutely,
on sole basis.
absolutely.
I guess Rohit is willing to ask a question. Yeah.
No, 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 no. There's this case era in Supreme Court in which I was, in which this mother, she insisted that POXO should be applicable because the girl's mental age was like 4 or 5, though her physical age was 25. And they said we cannot play around with the legislation. POXO is only for children. And in any case, the CRPC gives the facilities, and there are provisions in the CRPC to deal with to deal with adults who are physically and mentally incapable. In fact, that's a little tricky and it's quite debatable, but I would still go with it. We have to go according to the physical age.
I I hope that answered your question. Now, as we are running short of time, I would just like to conclude by asking one more question, ma'am, which is like, how challenging was it to work with the rape victims, as they are very sensitive at the instance, and to fill them with the self confidence all over again and rehabilitating them? So, what are your views on that?
Okay, three parts of it. How challenging is it? I think the big challenge and most important is that have to constantly motivate yourself. If you talk about from my own mental status, because I'm constantly getting this one's raped, that one's raped, this has happened, that has happened. I mean, it's incredible that you have to, and even the team, I have to constantly keep their morale high. Otherwise, it's a very dark world, and it's very easily to get into it. So you need to detach yourself. I mean, since you're NSS volunteers, and many of you may go into in the social field, law and social justice, it's very important to detach yourself to have a life beyond this. Unless आप सन्यासी type बनना चाह रहे हो या आप Mother Teresa या totally dedicate करना चाह रहे हो, that's another matter. But if you want to lead a normal life, you have to. I have learned to detach myself. Yes, I do what I do. Do it to the best of my ability, and beyond a point, I need to get out of it so that I can lead a normal life. Otherwise, it'll affect my relationship with my family, my husband, my children, etc. So you
Yes, ma'am.
try and detach yourself. I know it's difficult, but especially for youngsters, but that's number one. The second one was to get them. You see, we have filed a writ petition, the SAFMA Social Action Forum versus the Union of India, because there are numerous schemes for rehabilitation in which there's a case of Nipun Saxena,
Yes, ma'am.
and there's a victim compensation scheme. There's an amendment in the CRPC 354A, victims of violence, victims of crime, and none of it works because systems don't work in our country. And the law says that in case of hardship, severe hardship, interim relief should be instant, or otherwise it should be 2 months. But they do not follow it. I mean, I don't want to, kind of disregard anyone's authority or, but they'll just give quote figures that we've spent so much on DLSA and to victims. I'm talking about victims in Delhi. Every victim who's in Delhi, it's a challenge to get that victim compensation. So immediate is money. Why? Because who's going to take you to the hospital? Someone takes you to the hospital. That means money. That means one day's daily wage off. I mean, it's very difficult for the victim has suffered it and tries to get out of it. But for the family, sorry, but for the family, it's a trauma. Just dealing with the situation, they're hand to mouth. They have to borrow money from people. But nobody realizes that. And we had a project running, SAFMA Pari project. It was funded. We got a makeup company Purple had funded. It was not actually their funding, but they had started a donation in Women's Week last year, and they got some 80,000 footfall in which they divided between two NGOs. So we were, the moment we came to know for rape, we would immediately take a letter from the mother because you see, they be careful. Always take a request. Tomorrow they'll say कि ये other party ने पैसा दे दिया या दबाव डाल रहे हैं to change the statement. You see, things are pretty messy in our country. So we started with that. And we have been now, of course, the project's over and we've also run out of money, but somehow I think we'll continue. And one of the things that is that the girl is totally young girl going to school, brutally assaulted, Delhi case, and totally, she's paralyzed and she's shouting in pain and she's become psychiatric. I mean, we're trying everything how to deal with her, rehabilitation. We're trying to network with a whole lot of people. We've got some money to given to them, but then her mother rung up again. चाहिए मैंने कहा अभी तो मिला. She says वो तो हमने जिससे borrow किया दे दिया. And a basic thing is like a person who's in a vegetative state after the assault, the sexual assault, is like diapers. She needs adult diapers and they cost money. So I think, the financial aspect is really very heavy and we just keep trying, then, you have to do something about it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. Due to the paucity of time, we would not be able to take further questions. So, thank you so much for pouring your thoughts on the topic in such an extensive manner. We would definitely bear in mind your inputs, strive for bringing changes in the society at our
Very
own
good.
individual level, as the
Very
change starts from within.
Absolutely.
So
Thank
now
you.
I would like to request Dr. Praveen sir, our program officer, to present a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Madhulika. I start with a quotation from the current UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. He said, "Not until half our population represented by women and girls can live free from fear, violence, and everyday insecurity can we truly say we live in a fair and equitable world." So, with these quotes, I want to thank Dr. Charu Walikhana for sparing her valuable time to speak on security of women. Ma'am started with raising important questions like, has situation post Nirvaya changed? Uh, are laws enough? And here I can quote Falius Nariman, and he said in his book that it is not laws that oppress women, it is menfolk who do. Very important quotation from. And she highlighted the role of the, uh, education. In fact, role of education is very, very important because it makes us aware to take decision, informed choices, so that later on we may not get into some trouble. Thank you very much, ma'am, for speaking on this such an important topic. I thank our PIC, Dr. Anjuvali Tikku ma'am. I thank Sukanya ma'am, other faculty members, our volunteers, particularly Madhulika, Piyush, and other students, volunteers who, because of their efforts, it was possible to have this webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. And thank you, everyone, for being such a patient audience. Thank you so much, ma'am.
We
Thank
look
you, Anju
forward to
ma'am.
hosting you. We look forward to hosting you physically offline.
Definitely. Thank you, ma'am.